Hello YouTube, welcome back to another video with me, the drummer. And first off, if you're wondering, why am I the drummer? Well, I'm a drummer in real life. And my favorite comic book is Planetary. And if you've never read Planetary, go out, take a look. It's kind of like a love story to the entire superhero genre, pulp characters. There's sci-fi. It's really one of the greatest things ever written in comic books by Warren Ellis and art by John Cassidy. So if you haven't read it, pick up and read Planetary. But to some books. Main reason I want to do this video is I picked up a pretty big grail recently that I wanted to show off and talk about. So we'll get to that. But I've got a few other things before we get there. So I picked up actually a lot of books on Mercari. Most of my comic book buying is eBay. I don't do a lot locally, but I picked up this lot on Mercari specifically for, it was really weird. It was a very random assortment of books. And what popped up on my radar was one book in particular that basically, for me, the price kind of covered the whole lot. So these other books were like throw-ins, and some of them were pretty good. It's what I thought was a pretty good deal. So the first one to show off from there is Thor #1 with, of course, Jane Foster picking up and taking on the mantle of Thor. So this book's pretty hot all of a sudden with the announcement that Natalie Portman as Jane Foster is going to be starring in the next Thor movie. So in the picture, this looked fairly good, so again, it was like, okay, that's a interesting little throw-in. Looking a little closer at the book, unfortunately, I think if I was to CGC this, it's probably coming back like a 9.6 and not a 9.8. I think there's a slim chance it could get a 9.8, so maybe it's worth taking a flyer and sending in. It's not too much to get these modern books graded and see what it comes back at. I guess even a 9.6, it'd be pretty good, as I say, for what I got this for in the lot. If it was to come back as a 9.8, obviously I'd be very, very happy. So maybe we'll take a flyer on that and send it in to get graded and see what it comes back at. But that's the first book. The next book is another one that's like pretty cool to have. I wouldn't have really gone out of my way to pick this up, to be honest. But as like a throw-in in this lot, it's pretty cool. And that is Star Wars #1. Now I am of that age group that I am a big Star Wars fan. When I was younger, that was actually the main thing that I was into collecting, was Star Wars figures. Every single birthday and Christmas, I was getting Star Wars stuff. A lot of it is still sitting at home in my mom's basement. So if I was ever to dig all that stuff out, there's a lot of figures, and the old ones. We're not talking about the like the 90s ones. I'm talking about the original. A lot of stuff hiding there. So I'm a big Star Wars fan, and so to pick this book up in a lot for basically nothing is pretty cool. I actually randomly have, I think it's 107. It's like the last issue of the original Star Wars run as well. So now I've got the bookends, the first and the last, and they're actually going to go up on my wall here, because I think that's pretty cool to have the two of them together. So this isn't an amazing book. It's probably like a 6.0, maybe a 6.5 kind of thing. I could be a little harsh. It maybe even could be a 7. So it's in decent shape. The one corner was a little rough. Was actually looked like there was a piece missing, but it was folded under, and I managed to get it out and flatten it out again. So obviously there's some creasing there because of that, but it's all, at least it's not missing anything. It's all there. So yeah, pretty cool. Star Wars #1. Unfortunately, not the 35-cent variant, which would have made this quite the haul. Okay, next up is the book that I actually wanted to purchase that made me grab this lot. And I don't think I showed this off in a previous video, but it's been sent in for grading. I recently picked up Spiderman number 39, so we'll be seeing that at some point when it comes back. That's an amazing cover with Green Goblin and Spider-Man, and so I wanted to have the book that kind of goes along with it, and so this is Amazing Spider-Man number 40, another awesome Spidey and Goblin cover, and again, it's pretty nice. I'm calling this kind of probably a 6.0. So again, we'll see how close I am when this, because I will be sending this in with my next CGC order, see what it comes back at, and even if it's like in the 5.5 range, the whole lot was still worth what I paid for it. But I'm hoping that this comes back kind of a 6.0. But nice book. Few issues, few little creases, one up at the top, another one kind of right along here. But in general, really quite nice. So, cool book. And the main reason that I bought this lot. There's a few books I'm not showing off that's like, that I have like no use for. Like in, what is it, Invincible? Like Invincible something, a Venom #1 of some series. And there was also X-Force number 2, I think. Whichever one has like the real first appearance of Domino was also in there. So it was like a really weird lot of mishmash of books. The out of place one really being that Spidey number 40, which was the book I wanted the most. The other stuff was more modern, but pretty cool. Okay, the last Raw book here is another one I'm going to get graded. Not in fantastic condition, but again, for the price I paid, I think is worth it. So, in fact, I was looking for this book in a little higher grade, but again, I think this was good for the price, so I went for it. And this is Iron Fist 14, first appearance of Sabretooth. Wanted this book for, pretty much since I got back into collecting. This has been near the top of my list. I'm a big Wolverine fan. You've seen some of those books already. And so, Sabretooth is obviously a huge Wolverine villain, and wanted to pick this one up. I feel like there's still room for this book to grow. With the mutants coming back into the MCU, Sabretooth is going to end up making an appearance again with Wolverine. And so I thought, this is a book I really wanted to have. As I say, it's not great. I'm calling this kind of a 5.0. Definitely some issues at the staples, quite a number of spine ticks, a little bit of foxing and almost staining down there, and the corner through the pages is not great in that bottom corner. So definitely some issues. The rest of the cover itself is very nice. It's basically what's happening a lot along the spine there, and just, you know, general accumulation of little things. So I'm thinking like a 5.0. If that's what it comes back at, it's fine for what I paid for it. If it comes back any higher than that, that's like a real win. So there we go. Cool book. And finally, the big book that I picked up, that kind of prompted me to do another video here. And differently than all these other books, I actually picked this up locally. So guy had this for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and I've been looking for it. If you've watched my other videos, you know my big thing has been trying to pick up Fantastic Four keys, and there's a bunch of them that I'm still like keeping my eye on, specifically number 13, number 12, number 25, but I haven't found any popping up online at what I think is like a good price, either already graded or raw, for the condition that they're in, to look to get graded myself. So I'm always keeping my eye open for some of the other books on my list, and this came up from a guy locally, and was like, okay, I think I'm going to move on this. It's right in the grade level that I was looking for. I would have went as low as a 5. This one's a 6. So right in kind of the wheelhouse grading wise, good price, and to actually just get to see it, hold the book before actually purchasing, I went for it. And this one, it's a big one, is Giant Size X-Men #1. So you've got the first appearance of Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler. Obviously super key. You know, the previous however many years of X-Men comics were just reprints. The X-Men weren't doing very well, and they decided to call a mulligan and kind of a do-over with this new team that launched in Giant Size X-Men #1. So when you really think of like most important books in comics history, this is really up there for what this did, and obviously what followed with Chris Claremont and John Byrne and everything they did on the X-Men, and taking them to the heights that they did. This is a big book in the history of comic books. So I'm really excited to have this and add it to the collection. It's a nice 6.0. There's little accumulation of things around the book, but again, really it's quite nice. The cover is really in great shape. There's a date stamp right up here, which, funnily enough, so I when I was getting back into comics here, at first I was trying to stay away from date stamps completely. I thought I wasn't really into it, and now I'm actually thinking that it's pretty cool seeing that history of when the books were released, and having that stamp right on there as they would have come to newsstands. I actually think it's quite cool. So I'm more looking now at kind of where the date stamp is on the book, if I'm going to purchase one that has a date stamp. Obviously I don't want it in a silly spot, but if it's a spot that doesn't really affect the cover that much, then I actually think it's pretty cool. So that was actually something that I liked as opposed to disliked. You can't see the year date on there, but it says April 3rd, which is pretty cool. So like this book, because they say this book came out in summer of 1975 is what it's listed at. But this has got obviously an April date stamp, so the you know, that's when the shop got this one. I don't know when everyone else was receiving them, but yeah, pretty cool. So giant size number 1, which means the next book that's kind of jumped to the top of my list is X-Men 94, which is the first non-reprint in the X-Men series after all these reprints. So they came out with giant size number 1, and then X-Men 94 is the first appearance of that new team in the actual X-Men title. So as people say, it's kind of like the little brother to this book. So that's the next one that I've been keeping my eye on and looking for one at a decent price, either graded around the same grade. I've kind of been looking at things like a 6.0 to a 7.0, or checking out some raw ones that I think could meet that grade if I was to send them in myself. So hopefully we'll see that in a future video, as that's kind of at the top of my list right now. So there we go, folks. Thanks for watching another one of my videos. Again, I don't know if my next video, I keep saying my next video will be when I get some books back from CGC, but as the wait times right now are like crazy long, and I did not do the fast track on some of my like value tier because they're like books from the 60s, we might be waiting a while, so we'll see. Maybe the next video will just be more stuff that I've picked up before then. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.